Hey guys, this is Tom from Free State Less Lethal, back with another installment of what I did to my First Strike FSC today. Well, I've had the FSC for, I guess, a little over a month now. And, I use it for less lethal purposes. And of course, when you do that, that means cranking up your velocity all the way, just backing off a quarter turn. So you put this in here and you crank it all the way and then back off a turn. And what that does is it compresses this spring that's inside of here almost to the point where it's completely compressed. And what you get is something called spring fade, or the spring takes a set, and that means basically it gets shorter. So this is the they call it either the velocity spring or the power spring, and again it's up inside here. I just took it out, and when this spring was brand new, it was over 32 millimeters long, and now you can see it's just over 31 millimeters long. And that's because, I've compressed the spring and it tends to get shorter with that stress that's placed on the spring. And what has happened also over that month is I've noticed that my power, or the velocity of the projectiles coming out, has gone down. And that may be tied to this spring starting to get shorter. So I see that Sterling Self Defense, SSD, Dan Sterling, sells on his website a replacement or an upgrade spring. And he's done a couple videos on this spring showing that number one, it is longer than the stock spring. It's 34.65 millimeters long. And in his videos, he's put this spring into an FSC that he previously tested, and it was getting low power. Put the spring in, cranked it all the way down, backed off a quarter of a turn, just like you would do with the normal spring. And the power was restored. In fact, it even went up more than you would with, I guess, a brand new spring. So we're going to try that today. I'm going to put this longer spring in, and we're going to test it. But first, I am going to do a baseline with my stock spring. I'm going to take some shots, measure the power, see where it's at. Then I'm going to come back with the new spring installed, and we're going to see what the difference is. Stay tuned. Okay, this is the power test using the stock power spring, and I'm going to crank it all the way tight and then back off a quarter of a turn. That's tight. It's a quarter turn. All right. Just to let you know, deleted the PRV. The regulator is still intact. And I have a 9-inch Lapco smooth bore .686 inner bore barrel. We're running a 16 gram CO2, and I've got Grimberg Joule V2s in there. Okay. All right, let's take some shots. Safety off. .362. .325. 298. 271. That was an error. 234. 224. 212. And that was the last shot. Okay, I will put in the SSD power spring, and we'll do our second test. Okay, we're back. I have installed the SSD power spring. This is the stock spring. It's sitting out. So I will, just like I did with the stock spring, I'll crank it all the way up and back a quarter. Still cranking. All right, that is tight. Okay, get in there. Okay, tight. Now back a quarter. All right, again, 16 gram CO2, 8 gram Grimberg Joule V2s. Our high with the stock spring was 362. Let's see, delete that string, and we're going to go again. Put a light on this. Let's see, can everybody see that? Yeah, I think so. Okay. All right. Safety's on. Powered up. Safety off. Here we go. $356. $328. $299. 274. 252. 233. 222. Was that the last shot? Yep. Okay. Well, certainly we didn't get as high of a high. I'm not sure if our average is any higher, but I'll run those numbers and put everything up on the screen. And I'll come back to you with my thoughts. Okay, I'm back with my conclusion and thoughts on this test, comparing the stock velocity spring with the SSD power spring. I'll put a chart up on the screen here, just kind of running through my results. But, you know, as you can see, my high using the stock spring was actually a little bit higher than the SSD spring. My average, however, overall recorded shots, I recorded 7 shots using each spring, and the average using the SSD spring was a little higher. So measurable, yes. Significant, probably not really significant difference. One thing that interesting observation I'll make here is that after one cycle of this spring, compressing that spring and using it for over the 7 shots that I used it for, the length of the SSD spring has decreased from almost 34.5 millimeters down to 32.79 millimeters. So I'd say that the SSD spring is gonna, you know, suffer the same compressing effects as the stock spring will. Is it better than the stock spring? Perhaps marginally. I tell you what, you know, based on the results that I saw in Mr. Sterling's video testing this spring, I was hoping for a much better result using his spring. Now, my stock spring, although compressed, was not faded or compressed to the extent of the spring, the stock spring in the test FSC that he was using. I think the stock spring in the one he was using had gone down to like 30 millimeters, and of course this one is slightly over 31 millimeters. So I would imagine that the difference between those two springs, in my case, wouldn't be as great. But I am concerned about, you know, over time, what's going to happen to his spring. Is it going to just continue to fade or get a set to it or compress, just like the stock spring? Now, you know, the spring was perhaps a little bit more expensive than it would have been for me just to buy another stock spring. So, you know, not out a great deal of money there, but is it worth it? I don't know. You be the judge. I'm going to run it, and, you know, I'll probably report back results after, you know, having run it for a while and see how it performs over time. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll be back real soon.